Hello, Cubers. This is the Interactive Cubers podcast. You can reach us at theinteractivecubers@gmail.com. And with us, we have a very special guest whose name is Felix Mdegs. Hey, Felix.
Hey, how's it going? Suddenly, I feel a lot faster at just about every event.
Yeah.
Get instant sub 2 on 393.
So this is actually Kit Clement. He's a WCA Delegate. And if you don't mind, Kit, could you just kind of go into your job and how you got it and what you do?
That's a loaded question. Yeah, I guess I'll start with how I got it. So I lived in the Midwest for most of my life in Michigan, and basically in 2013 was around the time I started to get back into competitive cubing. Scene was pretty small when I started in 2008, and just kind of lost interest because I didn't have a car or any real way to get to competitions in college, but got back into it toward the end of my undergrad days. So I kind of joined at a funny time where there was just they went from a bunch of delegates in the region to just about none. And yeah, I started organizing stuff, and then 1 week when I was about to go to Hillsdale Fall 2013 in Michigan, ILQ emails me 3 days before the competition, is like, "Hey, you want to delegate this with me?"
Oh,
and I was like, sure. Don't I need to be a delegate first? And he's like, that's just a formality.
That's a formality.
So we co-delegated that. That was my first delegated competition, and shortly after, I became kind of the only active person in the Midwest besides Mike Huey, which was a lot.
Wow.
At the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I bet you're doing competitions like every month, probably?
Rough. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't remember my exact yearly totals, but I remember 2014, I think I went to like 17 that year.
Oh, jeez.
I think
Wow.
2015, I went to 24, though, and that's when...
2 a month, man.
Yeah, it was stupid.
So I've always wondered, how do you balance delegating and competing at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's easy. You just don't care about your results. For the most part. I mean, I care to some degree. I mean, I would if I didn't care about my results, this wouldn't be fun. But I mean, I rarely do I ever warm up before events. I usually just kind of go cold and see what happens.
I hate having cold fingers. I have to warm up.
I mean, figuratively cold, not like
but like I had to say having cold fingers while cubing is like eating cold pizza. It just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, it's never an issue for me. I mean, if you ever see me at a competition, it doesn't matter if it's January, I'm wearing shorts because I know I'm going to be running in circles, and I will be absolutely hot all day. So that's never an issue for me, especially because I typically, ever since I moved to the Northwest, I pretty much wear shorts 11 to 11 and a half months of the year.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, you previously lived in Michigan but moved to Portland area for school reasons?
Yeah, for school reasons. I graduated with my master's from Michigan and was looking to get a degree or a PhD so I could teach statistics. So there was a program out here in math ed and a professor out here at Portland State that did pretty big research in teaching statistics. So that's where I landed.
So here's a pretty basic question. So you said you started in like 2008, right?
Yep.
And I know for a fact cubing wasn't very big back then. And how did you get into it? Because YouTube wasn't very big either.
I mean, for 2008, YouTube was pretty big for cubing. That's pretty much where everything lived.
Alright, so there wasn't any like very many forums or...
I mean, speed solving existed back then.
That's it, just speed solving.
Yeah, and it still exists now. That's pretty much where all cubing discussion went. It started, before even I started, it was all on Yahoo groups.
Yahoo, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was like a speed solving Yahoo group that started in 1999.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that was kind of the real beginning of it all. But it transitioned away to message boards, I believe, like around 2005, 2006. I'm not really sure, just kind of ballparking it. And yeah, speed solving was kind of the main way to discuss cubing things with other people. I mean, it used to be that when you went to speed solving, you would see at least for like English speaking communities, you would see a thread in the WCA section for every competition that was happening in like the US and the UK and some other English
because there's
areas.
like not very many happening, so you could fit it on there.
No. Right, yeah, you put, everybody posted like a thread so people could talk about competitions and talk about travel and things like that. Yeah, it was really cool. I remember I never bothered looking at the WCA website for new competitions. I always checked speed solving because I knew there would be a thread there when it got up, and often there'd be a thread there before it was even officially announced.
Huh, that's interesting.
All right, so this is, I think, a Michigan inside joke. I want to know what the hand thing is. So here's my guess though. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like they say, like I'm from here, and they point at their hand.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Have you looked at a map before?
Is that like the 5 Great Lakes?
What do you mean?
Like the 5 fingers? Does that represent like where you are?
Okay, Carlin, I don't understand what you're saying here, buddy.
Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so Michigan has like the 5 Great Lakes.
Sure.
And I imagine that they're like holding up their finger, saying like, "Oh, I'm from here," and the fingers represent the lakes. That was my best guess. Other than that, I don't know what it means.
Have you looked at a map before?
Never in my life.
Never looked at the map.
Just take a look at the lower half of Michigan and tell me what you think it might look like.
I have to.
All right, I'm looking up.
Okay, so I'm not allowed to use a mouse on this podcast because mine is loud. So I can't look at a map right now. I'm sorry.
I'm
not allowed to use a mouse and keyboard during this.
Okay, I'm looking at the lower half.
Yeah. Does the shape of it remind you of anything?
It looks like a mitten, sort of.
Yeah.
Which looks
like
like
a
a
glove.
hand, Carlin.
It's your hand.
Wow.
So that means you always have to hold up your left hand and, I mean, your right hand, right? Because it's like...
It depends on what you're pointing at. You could use the back of your left hand if you wanted, but
typically... that makes sense.
Carlin, oh my, buddy. Oh my. A penny
That's
is
actually...
It's okay. You can cut this part out, clearly.
A penny is a tenth of a dollar, says Carlin.
Yeah, so last episode, or
No,
like two episodes ago, I was talking about the currency. It was called a mill, M-I-L-L, and it used to be like it was a tenth of a penny. And I was like, here in the U.S., a penny is a tenth of a dollar. And I didn't realize until the next episode that I said a penny is a tenth of a dollar.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right, so Kit, how did you like discover cubing, like the whole rubrics cubing stuff?
I mean, I feel like everyone generally has a really fun story for how they started cubing. Like I remember going to Worlds 2013, which was like the first major competition I was a staff member at. They had like this meeting for all the staff where we just kind of hung out and got to know each other because there were a lot of people from across the country and even the world that were helping out at that competition that just felt like we should get to know each other. And one of the things that was like one of the icebreaker questions was like, tell everyone how you got started cubing. And everyone seemed to have this like amazing, funny story of like their friend did this thing on the bus and then they saw that they could solve a cube and they wanted to learn how to beat them, or they had this weird coincidental story where they like happened to meet like a really famous cuber out of nowhere and then like didn't realize who they were until they started cubing themselves and was like, oh wait,
oh my
that's
gosh.
who's got yeah,
it's Felix.
Yeah, or something like that. I mean, most of these people, myself included, started cubing before Felix even started cubing. So
and Felix is like faster now. So
I mean, I remember when Felix posted a fake solves to speed solving with him.
I heard about that.
Yeah, he posted an average of 5 with scrambles that all had cross done.
Oh my.
Okay, so is he doing that as like, haha, this is a funny sarcastic joke, or is he
serious?
Actually trying to say?
Oh, he was just a little kid. Everybody makes mistakes in this community.
Okay.
It's.
I haven't made a single mistake.
Yeah, I mean, he just scrambled them in a way to make sure they had a cross.
Right.
Tried his best to hide the cross on video and got a sub 20 average and posted
Pretty
it.
Funny.
Yeah, it's funny, and whenever it's funny too. Like, it's a great story to tell like people who, think like they're going to be like excommunicated from this community because they posted a fake solve or whatever. It's like, dude,
And now,
Felix did it.
Yeah, and now Felix can do a legit full step in under 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
No need to cheat, guys.
that's one of the nice things about this community is that you really, I think it's generally a very supportive and welcoming community, even if people, did less than awesome things.
Yeah,
So
Felix. Jeez, man.
So, as a delegate, I'm talking about you, not me. I'm not a delegate. But like, would you ever see corner twisting as anything other than a DNF? Because a lot of times, like, there's theories about when Felix got the world record, but it was a corner twist. It didn't count. People thought it was the scrambler, and even if it does happen in in the solve, it technically is your fault. But it's not like you're purposely trying to do it. Just like a +2 would be, but it's instantly a DNF. Like, would that ever be anything other than a DNF, like a +2 penalty or something?
So, all right. First off, if you watch the 5.33 from Felix, you can see he had a valid PLL with no corner twists before.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very clearly him.
Yeah,
who
didn't you
twisted.
see that, Carlin? Man, jeez. People these days.
So, yeah, I just want to throw that out of the way. Felix did
Okay.
not. It was not corner twisted initially. It was just
Okay.
that. He had a valid PLL with no twisting of corners, and then it just happened literally during. I believe he had a T perm. I can't remember exactly, but from what I remember, he did the last like F prime and that twisted the corner, literally
man.
in the last move, or it was the AUF. I can't remember. It was.
How would you?
I remember
twist a
watching it,
corner
though.
in an AUF?
I'm not sure, but it was an
How?
L1v1.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Now I get it. Clears everything
yeah,
up.
So that's part one. Part two, in terms of will corner twists be a time penalty rather than a DNF? I would hardly believe that would ever be the case, just because it is rather ambiguous as to.
Big words.
It's not a very easy thing to penalize. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't, a +2 for misalignments is at least like a valid move away. A twisted corner is a puzzle defect.
Yeah.
And had that corner been like popped out completely, it would still be a DNF. So the other thing too is that generally the movement within WCA is not to add more penalties, but to remove penalties or simplify penalties.
Yeah.
One thing that people argue for, +2 misalignments is that, this disadvantages ruse solvers because M's are considered 2 moves.
Yeah.
And it's a DNF for an M move. Yeah.
Right. But the whole thing is like you can come up with, if you start to allow slice turns as +2, you can come up with crazy wacky things that like just there's states that I would show you and be like, that's a DNF, and then I could easily reason to you that if slice moves are valid moves that you could see this as a +2.
It's the plus.
Yeah, like if you had like an R2 and an L prime, that's not technically an M move, but it's 2 sides turned.
Right, like there's weird things that you can do where you could imagine like there's a spot where if you do an M move of some degree that it becomes a solved puzzle because the other layers become within 45 degrees.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of just
mind.
So yeah, really if we want to have, method neutral regulations that don't preferentially give better treatment to Ru versus non-Ru solvers or whatever, we should remove misalignment +2s entirely.
And just make them all DNFs.
Yeah, just if you didn't solve the cube, you get a DNF.
I should never have an official average then, because in every single one of my theoretical averages, I've had a +2. Every single one. I've never not had a +2 in 3x3.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the one kind of advantage to having a misalignment +2 is it does give a little bit of leeway for people to, stop the timer quickly rather than kind of carefully make sure they place the cube down in a solved way and then stop the timer. So I definitely see an advantage in it that it gives like a little bit of leeway to solvers to, and if you do remove misalignment +2s, it makes the first DNF a little scary just because you have to play safe, every solve immediately after that, just as if in clock.
My average at causes. I hated my life.
And even with clock, this is already kind of a fact where if you get a DNF because you didn't fully solve it, you kind of have to play safe on the remaining solves to make sure you don't DNF your whole entire average.
Yeah.
So I mean that it already exists for one event really, but doing that would kind of make that sort of pressure exist for every event.
Yeah. I know people when they're doing feet, when they have to do their like U2, I know people like sometimes stop the timer with that U2 done so they get a +2 instead of having the time, like let's say it took them 3 seconds to do the AUF instead of just take the +2 like they do it for a faster solve.
Yep, and I'll do the same. If I have a U2 AUF, I will totally do that.
I don't do feet, but I would do it if that makes a lot of sense.
So this is kind of interesting because at the last comp, which was Eugene Spring. So, Kit, do you kind of want to explain what happened to my pyramid solve? Because that was really weird.
Do you want to explain to me what happened to your pyramid solve?
do you remember? Okay, so I slapped it down, and the tip of it came apart.
You had the tip that nearly exploded off the thing. It was that's right. I remember that now. Sorry, there's too many competitions. I guess. Yeah.
Does that count?
Was it DNF?
I think it still stood. We reported it in our incident report, and nobody disagreed with our ruling to let it stand. It's the regulation says that pieces have to be
on the
fully placed or fully attached. I believe I can't remember the exact wording, but this gets used pretty loosely, and the pieces were still attached to the puzzle in the right place. So yeah, it's those kind of things are really a gray area. It's really a gray area when you get to big cubes 6 and 7.
Yeah, because where you get twist.
Yeah, pieces twisting in place or just kind of randomly switching place at the last turn or something.
Which is so annoying. Oh my.
Yeah, and it's just kind of well, what do we do with this? They're all the pieces are attached correctly, and they're all in the right color size. They're just kind of in weird places. And
yeah, I remember that because at the February competition, I remember that one guy doing 4x4, the centerpiece twisted, but it was still technically solved. Remember that?
Yeah. That one was a little less ambiguous, just because at least the piece was in its correct place. But
it was twisted and
it was twisted, right?
It was solved. You could tell it was solved.
It was in the right spot. There's definitely cases where you'll see an X center and an oblique on a 6x6 will switch places a little bit,
which is really weird. I don't know how that happens.
I've seen way too much. It's happened.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's hard to rule a lot of those cases. So it's one of those cases that just kind of falls into the super gray area sort of area. So yeah, just kind of.
What do you think is the most crazy or wild thing you've ever seen delegating? Because I'm sure you see all kinds of stuff.
Wow, Carlin. 6x6 explosion.
That's nothing. Let's
poor
see.
Kevin, I believe in you.
Yeah. So one crazy thing that happened at one competition. It was Michigan Mystery 2014. I'm not going to talk about who the competitor was, but I'll talk about what the competitor did. Just this information is publicly available, so I'm just kind of sifting through what I can and can't talk about. So this competition, it was a 2-day competition that had a few different blind events. I believe it had 2 rounds of 3 blind as well as multiple blindfolded. And because it had a long blind event, we had a separate room going for doing multi-blind attempts, different from the main competition room. As a result, we had it the whole time. It was just rarely being used. And during 3 blind, we actually it was late 2014. We had a lot of people in our area that were just starting to get into blindfolded that were not very fast at blind. So, above 10 minutes would need to be on a stopwatch timer likely anyways.
Oh. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, and I had given generous cutoffs because I knew that there were a lot of people getting into blindfolded in the area, and I wanted to give them a chance to get their successes. So one thing we did, though, because if we let them compete in the main room, a lot of other competitors would finish their 3 solves while they're still in one. And generally when this happens, when like a bunch of people finish a group and there's still people going, the noise in the room just starts to like creep up and get louder and louder because people think it's ending. So I offered to a group of these people, like, hey, so you're new to blindfolded, how fast are you? Because if you want, we can have you just do your 3 blind in the multiple blindfolded room where it'll stay quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is it helped us a bit, too, just because we had harmonica holders already for doing multi-blind.
Harmonica holders.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that setup before, right?
Yeah,
you wear them, and yeah. So one competitor, though, took advantage of this fact that they were using harmonica holders. And with the harmonica holders, essentially, the paper doesn't go all the way to your chest. There's a little bit of a gap between your chest and the hinges, and where the paper starts. Yeah. And this competitor just brought their cube right up to their chest.
Oh my gosh!
And was peeking directly underneath the blindfold and DNF'd their first solve, but turned in like 2 low 1-minute times on blind.
Dang.
Wait, can you pause for a second? How did they DNF the first 2?
Yeah, the first one.
Just the first one.
How would you DNF that if you're looking at the cube?
I'm pretty sure he wasn't looking on the first solve. I think that he kind of like evaluated the situation of the room.
He studied it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too is that like everybody was going at 10 minutes, and I think the judges were expecting people to take that long, so he could sneak in, a 2-minute solve before anybody would notice that he did it.
Oh yeah.
We didn't have any real evidence that he cheated, but we were suspicious of him.
How would you be suspicious? Did someone see it happen or?
Well, we didn't see it happen, and when we asked the people before, like, to go into that room, we asked them like how fast they were at blind.
Oh, that's why, yeah, that guy was kind of faster, so.
Right, and he said beforehand that he took, he probably couldn't stack mat a blind solve.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he gets like a minute. World record single, boys.
Right, so it was a little inconsistent. Because we didn't really have any evidence, we just kind of let it stand for now and tried to see how it would play out. There was a second round of blind that he made because of his times.
Yeah.
So we knew that we'd have another chance to observe him doing blind.
You get like your night vision goggles out and all that, your spy equipment.
Or just we would be able to hold the paper ourselves.
Yeah.
So we could make sure that if he was moving the cube around to dodge the paper blocker, we could easily tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the funny thing too is he was doing practice solves. This was a younger child and just basically kind of wanted attention, wanted to be one of the cool kids.
The cool kid.
And he would, pretend to do blind solves and just like, he wasn't very subtle about the fact that he cheated. He was deciding to try to go even faster, and he was doing all these practice solves in front of other people all day, and all of a sudden he was getting like 30-second times. And so when we got to the final round, we gave him the next set of scrambles, and put a paper blocker in front, and he had just no ability to do anything. So we talked with him and his parents and worked it out and told him that his results were going to be disqualified and that there would be a bigger discussion. So that was probably one of the craziest incidents I've had to deal with.
So I have a pretty crazy question. I've been not crazy, but a pretty interesting question. I've been thinking for like 6 months now. It's like,
the question doesn't need prep. Just ask. It
needs prep. This is like one of those trailers. They have like those. They show the movie reviews like, this movie was amazing. They like prep up the movie. I gotta do that with the questions, man. And it's how did you get your color scheme? Like, I don't understand it. That's a really
sure.
Yeah, I need some explanation.
So the first cube I ever bought when I started cubing, I mentioned, I think I never really finished this story, but how all these other people had really cool, interesting stories for starting cubing. Mine was that I just remembered that the Rubik's Cube was a thing over one winter break in 2008, like Christmas winter break or whatever. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to look up a YouTube tutorial for how to solve this thing, because YouTube had been a thing for about a year and a half by then. So I was like, you know, there's got to be a tutorial for how to do this there. I've found other tutorials on YouTube already. There's got to be a Rubik's Cube one. So I just looked it up and I started doing it. The first cube that I had, though, I bought from Borders, RIP. And it was a Detroit Red Wings cube that had 4 black sides with different logos on it, a red side and a white side for the Red Wings colors with different logos on it as well. So,
okay.
It was a disgusting cube. Like, it was meant to be kind of one of those collector items, like themed NHL cubes. Yeah, but it was all they had at Borders, so I was like, whatever. It'll be functional for me to learn at least. And eventually, one of my high school friends who also kind of started cubing around the same time I did, he said, "Yo, there's this website called CubeSmith, also RIP, where you can buy stickers, replacement stickers for your puzzles. So you should do that for your own cube." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then, so I ordered some, and while I was waiting for them, he was like, "Oh, also, you should be edgy and do Japanese color scheme, because you can."
Edgy, be all edgy with it.
Yeah, and then I was just kind of like, yeah, sure, cool, I'll do that. And the problem is I didn't understand rotational symmetries of the cube. And so I did a Japanese color mirrored. So
that's the most random thing I've ever heard of. Japanese color scheme that has been mirrored.
Yeah, so instead of switching blue and yellow, I switched green and white.
Oh, boy.
So it had the right opposite colors, but it was mirrored.
That's just getting really too confusing for me now.
Yeah. So that's where the color scheme kind of was born. But the reason it's now like with black is because white cubes back in the day were always $1 cheaper.
Oh.
I think because
no one wants them.
What's that?
Nobody wants them.
Because
I think it was
why?
Because like they were more. I think they were less like actual white and more just kind of the default plastic color, kind of like primary plastic in a sense. I mean, they definitely were whiter than like primary plastics today, but from what I'm guessing is that it was easier to produce a white cube than a black cube just because of the way they were manufactured. And the thing too is that when you bought a black cube back in the day, it didn't come with white stickers; it came with black stickers.
What?
Yeah, every white cube.
Oh, that makes sense.
You always had black stickers with it rather than white.
And now it's different. They come with white stickers now.
I was so surprised, like when I came back to cubing in 2013 and saw white stickers on white cubes, and was like,
you don't even need the stickers anymore. You just use the color of the plastic now.
No.
Well, I mean, you could do that, but it's not.
No, you can't.
Well, not in competition, but you could
No. Yeah, not in competition.
Yeah, but like it works. It works.
Yeah, it's functional. But yeah, I was like just when I came back, I just saw white stickers on white plastic and was like, that is disgusting. Why would anybody do that? Yeah. But apparently people do that. Just started doing that because they didn't like the inconsistency of black stickers on white cubes and white stickers on black cubes. But I thought it made perfect sense. That's interesting. But yeah. So when I switched over to white cubes, I just kept my color scheme and switched the white side out for a black side, and then I stuck with that. That's the color scheme I've stuck with.
That is the most interesting color scheme story I've ever heard. And like my color scheme story is, I went to this website called thecubicle.us and I chose colors. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Nothing else.
I mean, it makes up for my boring how I started cubing story.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
I have the most boring color picking story. All right, Carlin, do you have something, my dude?
Yeah. So there's this video on YouTube, and it's called "How to Pronounce Kit Clement." Have you aware of this?
Oh yeah, it's Brandon Michael. Yeah, I know. I've known of this video.
And the whole video is like squished, like really flat, and it's so funny because it shows you walking around.
Yeah.
Clement.
So is that like an inside joke or something?
It's okay. So those are videos that Brandon makes in not a 100% state of mind. Well, he used to make, where he would just decide in the spur of a moment when, he wasn't all together. I'll leave it at that.
Wasn't all together.
And decided to make a video just on how to pronounce somebody's name and would intentionally butcher it as much as he could.
Oh, man.
Do you remember how he pronounced it? Can you?
It was like Kit Clement, or I can't.
Clement.
I don't know. I totally cannot remember.
Clemente.
That's what.
God.
So, could you talk about Cubing World? Because I know it's a channel that it's kind of like a big collaboration, but I don't know how people get on there. And specifically, I saw a video recently, and you were talking about why you left the community in the first place, because you originally left and then got back into it, and that was because of like people being mean to other people because they're starting out and being slow, I think. Was that it?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that back in the day. I mean, it wasn't a prevailing problem in the community, but it was something I saw back in the day. Just that it was, I felt at times it was almost a little bit too inclusive of a community, which I don't think is too much of an issue today. But I felt like it kind of had that feel back then just because it was a lot smaller. But, I mean, really the main reason I stopped cubing was more just that I didn't have a way to get to competitions. And there were so few. Like, I organized the very first Michigan competition in 2009. And it was hard to get anyone to kind of come back and come delegate again. I didn't have friends that I could carpool with. No, because there was nobody cubing anywhere near me.
Right.
Most people that were cubing in Michigan were like 4 or 5 years younger than me. Like James Hildreth, who's now the delegate in Michigan, he was at some of those early 2008, 2009 competitions, and he was a baby. Like, I was in high school and the kid was like 12 or something.
12 equals baby. How dare you?
Basically, he was a baby. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like, as a 17-year-old, I wasn't going to be friends with a 12-year-old and get, a ride to a competition from them.
Drive me, Mr. 12-year-ld.
Yeah. I mean, or
sense.
like his mom or whatever. And I mean, we're great friends now just because, a 4 or 5 year age gap doesn't mean as much when you're, in your 20s together. Yeah. So we're great friends now. But, back in the day, like all these little kids, I wasn't going to get a ride with them to a competition.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Cubing World.
Yeah, Cubing World. How did that start, and how did you get involved with that?
So Cubing World was kind of a project of Noah Arthur's.
Yeah.
He was the mind behind the whole thing. So I kind of joined on the later half of Cubing World, when he was like refreshing a lot of the people who were updating the channel. I can't remember what season I joined. It was either 3 or 4.
And by the way, Cubing World is a YouTube channel, and they pretty much give off cubing tips from a bunch of pros, and it's just a big collab project.
Yeah, it's a cool channel. I'm on the channel right now, and I'm going through the upload list, and from 3 years ago, top 10 videos you'll never see on Cubing World with Kit Clement. Yeah,
that was.
I'm gonna add that to my watch later list now.
Yeah, that was that was a joke comedy video that Noah and I did together on a Google Hangout. It was probably one of the last Cubing World videos too.
There's like 10 or 12 more after that, and then just stopped 2 years ago, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, and it's mostly just because Noah stopped running the whole show. Because he didn't start it. It was some other person. I'm not really sure who started it, but he kind of really pushed the channel hard and got it to a very good regular content schedule from about like late 2013 to 2015 or so. But he then started school at Stanford in 2015 and just kind of was like, I don't have the time for this, and I also don't have somebody to hand this off to who I think can do it as well as I could do it, so he just kind of let it die.
Oh, that's that. Philip.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Phil Yu from 5 years ago on here.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of fun stuff on that channel if you want to dig around.
Yeah.
Just because they were able to get the attention from it, which is why I think that Cubing World in the end wasn't really a sustainable project for somebody who was going to just be putting time into it for the love of the channel and not for, any sort of gain or anything like that. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I have something to talk about here since you're a delegate and you know quite a lot about competitions, and that is what to do at your first competition. Because remember when I went to my first competition, I watched practically every video on the internet about what to do at your first competition, and it was pretty confusing. So if you could give a quick sum up of the basics and all that.
Sure. I mean, there's a great video that Chris Olsen and I made together in 2015.
I love that. I still watch that video because it's just interesting.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time prepping that video. We had a lot. It was made at, I think, Dixon's Summer 2015. I think that's right.
It's kind of an old video, though.
Yeah, it's definitely old. But we were messaging because I lived in Michigan, he lived in Minneapolis, so Dixon, Illinois was kind of like the driving midpoint of the two of us, and it was one of the few chances that we were ever going to go to a competition together, unless one of us were flying or going to nationals or something.
Yeah.
So we were like, "Yo, this is a great idea. Let's plan a script and all of that for this." And so we had a lot of planning. The Friday night, when we were all at the Brashan's house, just having dinner and stuff, we were chilling and really hashing out the final details of how the video would go. And then Saturday morning, before we opened the doors to the public, we did the filming of all of that. So all the equipment was kind of already set up. But we didn't have anybody else but us there, so it was kind of a perfect filming environment.
Yeah, I was wondering, why are there no people at this competition?
Yeah, we did it bright and early in the morning and kind of locked everybody else out. But we did it well before check-in was supposed to open, so we got everything done, got all the shots we needed in, and it was a cool project. I was really happy with how that turned out, and it's a great resource.
It was really easy to understand it, and it was kind of funny in a way.
Yeah, and it gets you all the necessary things. I think before that video was really ever released, that nobody knew. A lot of people who had come to competitions would have no idea that there were +2s for things that aren't misalignments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That there was a proper way to start and start and stop the stack mat timer.
Yeah.
So I think that was and I think that was a really great video for that, because I think, now compared to early 2015, people know much more about, penalties for starting and stopping the timer.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because we had those regulations in for a long time, and I don't think anybody cared about them before. I still think I think at every competition, there's always an improper start or stop that happens that a judge doesn't catch.
I've seen a lot of those actually when I'm judging, and I try to tell them, but then I give them the penalty, and then they just get really, really upset, and I show them the sheet that you guys put out with all the penalties, and they just I feel bad now because they're starting to cry.
Yeah, it's not your fault.
I know, but I just feel bad because they don't know, and that's why you need to watch that video or read.
Or just come and watch the tutorial I do before every competition. I mean, it's not really your fault that they didn't pay attention.
I know, but I don't know why. I just still feel bad because they don't know. But I mean, it's not my fault. It's your fault.
No,
but...
and you can always call me over too if that's ever in it, or whoever the delegate is. If you do notice a penalty and it turns into a argument or a little kid crying situation,
that
you can always call
at the
you can always you can always call a delegate over to help resolve it.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, Carlin.
Roughly how many kids have you made cry?
Too many.
Wow, Carlin, why did you have to go there, buddy?
I've seen too much. Yeah, I mean, it's and generally I try to avoid that whenever possible. I mean, it's on one hand, you don't want to, you don't want to be the one who ruins a kid's day, but on the other hand, it's you can't just ignore regulations that exist. They're there for fairness. It's always a tough situation to deal with, emotional situations. But I feel over the years I've done a better job recently of diffusing those situations as best I can.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of, egging it on, as I've seen a lot of people have issues with, like, they just don't know how to deal with emotional things and just kind of say, well, that's the final call, and I'm blah blah blah, I'm done with you here. And
oh man,
yeah.
Well,
there was one tough situation recently where we had to DNF a kid's first 3 solves because he was wearing headphones.
Oh, and that's interesting.
Yet nobody noticed it until solve 3, and the competitor had been to several competitions and never had a problem with this. So
I don't understand the thing about the headphones. Like, I know I probably should read the regulation, but like, is it because like you can like someone can talk to you about the scrambles while you're solving, or?
Yeah, that's precisely it. And for a long time, we allowed like electronic headphones so long as like they were, non-wireless and didn't have anything plugged into them or anything like that. But we kind of scaled that back a year or 2 ago just because it was impossible really for us to determine whether like the capabilities of headphones or whatever they were wearing.
I only have one more thing to talk about. I'm just gonna like forget that Carlin is here, right? And I'm only.
I'm still here.
Wait, really?
We kind of sidetracked an entire question though, didn't we?
Well, that's pretty much the whole podcast. So.
Carlin,
so Jeffrey, ask your question, and then I have like one more. And then
I don't
we'll
know what you have to really say about this, but I found this really interesting the way you proposed to Lauren. That was really cool. I really liked that. That was was fun. With using the treasure cube, and I like that. Like, where did you come up with the idea for all of that?
I just saw that the puzzle existed.
You're just like, oh, this is, and then you guys made like a pixel art with all the cubes, and then
yeah, that was just to kind of make it a little more original than just using another person's idea that because Oscar made that for somebody else. I decided I need to do something that's a little more original than just kind of borrowing somebody else's idea. But I guess doing it within a WCA competition kind of adds that element too. So
yeah, that was just really interesting. Like I was going through Chris's videos because I binge watches, and I just see this. I'm like, what is this? And I watch. I'm like, this is the most creative proposal I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's a shame too that I put my water bottle right in viewing distance of everything that was happening.
That dang water bottle, man.
Yeah. I mean, I should have planned it better. I'm pretty sure. So the camera that was there, we were a little stealthy to make sure it didn't seem totally obvious that we were recording this song.
I was wondering about that because how could you hide it?
We had Chris do his 3x3 average, the group before Lauren's, and he just we set up that camera with the tripod, and he was like, "Hey, do you mind if I do all of my solves at this station?" I could just kind of leave my camera here and don't have to move it around and set up every single solve. And we were like, yeah, that's fine. But then Chris decided. Then that was the way that Chris could just kind of, because we were
nonchalantly do it.
Yeah, he was hurrying and helping the next group get through, and just left the camera there recording.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest parts is you kind of build everything up and everything's coming together, and you pull the ring out and you're like, oops, wrong hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hand. That's a big deal. It's the wrong hand.
Yeah, you can't plan every detail out.
Right.
The little ones get overlooked sometimes.
The big water bottle mistake, man. That dang water bottle.
Yeah, stupid water
bottle.
Carlin,
could have been. Do you have anything left?
Yes. So there's been lots of rumors about new events being added to the WCA. I hear cuboids being talked about a lot, or mirror blocks, which I hope does not happen.
Please no.
What would you say is, as a WCA delegate, what would you say is the best possible cube, the one that has the highest chance of being added at this point?
That's a good question. So here's my personal view. I cannot say that this reflects the views of the WCA, but this is my own personal view on events. And I think many other WCA officials personally also have similar viewpoints as me, but I don't want to say that this is the WCA's view as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that being said, I think that currently the events that have the best chance of being added in the near future are probably Killaminx and Team Blind. That would be my guess.
Team blind would be interesting to like
that would be
penalties
awesome.
for penalties though. When you really think about it,
I mean, there's a lot of difficulties with team blind in terms of storing the results and also like making sure that like there's no information being transferred. I'm not sure if that's what you were gonna say about penalties.
Yeah, like someone could like sneak in as like another partner for like another person and just know the exact thing, you know, what to do because they already saw it happen.
Right, and that's it. Team blind. The reason I think it's the event that most people want that
it's
are
fun.
within the WCA.
It's really fun.
Yeah, because it's fun, it's different, and adds a team element to an event which the WC doesn't have at all yet. And it's not like of course you could turn like team relays into an event, but that's an event that doesn't require a team aspect. Like team blind requires a caller and a solver.
Yeah, you need that person to solve
it.
Right,
Which because like doing team relay 3x3 is just doing 3x3 with multiple people. It's not really adding anything new.
Like what they did at Worlds, right?
Something, with the Nations Cup crap or whatever they did. Yeah. So I think that really if you're going to add a new event, I think it really needs to be something that completely stands out from the set of events we currently have. And Team Blind, in my opinion, is the event that stands out the most from any possible event that you could add to the WCA.
Because Killaminx or Kibiminx, however you want to say it, is basically the Mega Minx. There's really no difference. Like you don't need any tutorials. It's like it's like the same thing. So
right, and I mean it's not totally the same thing. Like a quarters only dodecahedron puzzle is actually kind of interesting.
But it's really similar.
It's not. Yeah, it's similar. But the reason I say it's also somewhat likely to be added is just because it has a large popularity. It's been held as an unofficial event many times. Yeah. I think some people can make a case for ReadyCube, but there's one big reason why I'm personally not very interested currently in adding ReadyCube, and that is that it is backed by MoU. That pretty much nobody wanted to do ReadyCube competitions. So I feel like if we add ReadyCube in the near future, that there's a dangerous precedent we'd be setting, in that ReadyCube never would have had unofficial competitions if it weren't for the fact that MoU supported it financially.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel it's a dangerous precedent unless like there's actual grassroots like people wanting to do ReadyCube not for MoU money. That I don't really see the ReadyCube competitions that are done unofficially as really being evidence that the community wants this event. I think there are many community members that want it as a result of the popularity that the MoU competitions have brought, but I don't think that anybody has really done many unofficial competitions of ReadyCube that weren't sponsored by MoU. And it's kind of dangerous if we do kind of allow that thing to happen, because you'll start to see manufacturers just making random puzzles out of nowhere.
And seeing if they can become an event.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that becomes a little scary to kind of go down that road. I think if there's a lot of interest in ReadyCube, though, organically, not because a cube company is the one that's pushing it, I think that would be more ideal. But I haven't seen that yet, whereas Killaminx has truly been grassroots community focused.
Yeah, and it's been made by multiple companies, so it's not just...
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's a lot of issues with the WCA right now in terms of growth that we're having a hard time dealing with. I mean, if you just look at the number of competitions that are happening per weekend, it's insane. Yeah. Even just compared to last year. And the structure within the WCA, like we've added a couple new committees, but the existing committees, like the work that they are putting in, especially groups like the results team who have to deal with uploading results, making sure record markers are accurate, that all of the time limits and cutoffs were upheld, and making sure all of these different things that are all the results that get uploaded to the WCA are pristine. That's a lot of work that's now fell on their lap. The regulations committee, not only do they deal with updating the regulations, they deal with interpreting incidents at competitions, and they are severely, I mean, I wouldn't say they're backlogged. I think they're doing a good job of keeping up with the high profile incidents, but it's right now there's just not a lot of I don't know. We're growing, and we have a lot of issues currently. Yeah, we're growing. I wouldn't say too fast. Like, growth is great. It gives us good challenges. The thing is that the challenges we really need to get through at this stage are ones about, making sure that our model for holding WCA competitions will hold up long term. And currently, the model that we have right now is unsustainable even in the near future. And that's kind of the big thing we're tackling right now, is how do we change our current processes in a way that we can maintain the growth that we're currently having without, losing the quality of competitions we have currently. And while I think that Team Blind would be so much fun to add, I am a huge, huge supporter of adding that as a new event.
Yeah, it'd just be so complicated to add it.
Yeah, it's right now, you have to change so much about the results database. You'd have to update the regulations, and results and regulations right now are probably the two most overworked teams in the WCA right now. Yep. And they do not need more work to do, as well as software. Software has been doing an amazing job at, getting our new WCA registration system up and running as of like a year ago or so now, and getting payments integrated with all of that, and doing so much other behind the scenes work to make the WCA website awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
I love that.
They've done so much good work in making the WCA website work as well as it does right now, but there's still even more work to do. And adding an event like Team Blind, where there'd be all of this like paired teams results we need new database formats for storing team results.
Because you need to share it with 2 WCA profiles and
right. Right now, and right now every line in our spreadsheets or in our database is dedicated to one single person.
Yeah.
So right now, the current way we store results would need to be altered slightly to account for potential team events. It's a non-trivial update. I think in theory, it's a great event to add. I think currently, though, in practice, it's hard to consider adding an event that complicated with so many other priorities that we need to worry about. That's about it.
That's about it.
Anyways, just kind of as a closer, I have set up a little mini game. If you would like to play our mini game, Kit.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Carlin. Okay, I'm ready for this.
This is what I'm gonna call it, the cubing mini game.
That's pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions. I'm gonna go rapid fire. You have to answer them as quickly as you can if you know them. Okay, here we go. What is DG Cube's name?
Daniel Goodman.
What is JR Cuber's name?
You can do it.
Something Roberts, I think. I can't remember his first name.
I think it's Jesse.
That's it.
No, it's Jesse Hartnett. Jesse Hartnett.
What is the current largest by N?
Physically produced?
Yes, physically.
Yeah.
Not mass produced?
Yeah, just like physically.
Okay, 33 by 33.
Okay, yep. What is the smallest 3x3, like in size?
Oh, crap.
I don't even know this one myself.
Isn't it like...
Best guess.
Isn't it something around like 5 millimeters or something?
5.6 millimeters.
Okay, pretty good.
What is the largest in meters 3x3?
10.
It's 9, the Tony Fisher whatever 8, one. I don't remember the size though.
6.
Gotta guess.
1.5 meters.
1.57.
Oh my god.
Okay, all right.
You're so close.
And our last question is, why is clock the dumbest event?
Because it falls over.
Yeah, and you need to have different shapes of cover boxes for it.
Yeah.
The last one was a joke because I know how much you like clock.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? I thought you liked it.
Just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I like it.
Oh, I thought it was like your favorite.
I mean, it was.
What is your
3
favorite?
years ago.
What? Yeah, but what is your favorite?
Fewest moves.
I suck at that. I'm the worst.
Since I guess you kind of won the thing, so you win my respect. That's what you win.
Wonderful.
You win free oxygen.
Anyways,
I am now recording. Wait, no, I'm not. Don't talk. I have to open up another application, enable another thing, because this is a pain.
It's worth
okay,
it.
now we are recording.
Yeah, I mean,
so ask the question again and then answer it. Okay, so there's this competition coming up, and basically how it works is you get to pick your favorite 3 events
It's
out
all
of the
18.
whole WCA.
All 18. Yeah, all 18.
Yeah. So, and Kit's gonna kind of talk about like how it's possible.
Except FMC, so only 17.
Oh, what a scam.
Okay. Yeah, so this competition like stirred a little bit of controversy from what I saw. But I think it's a really cool idea. Essentially, I wanted to have a competition where, if there was something you wanted to qualify in right before nationals, this was your chance to do it. And even if you were already qualified in nationals, it was a chance really to just do whatever event you like the most. So I thought it kind of was cool in both of those
awesome.
ways.
Yeah, no, this is really tricky for me to pick because I'm trying to get sub 10 on 3x3. So obviously I'm gonna do 3x3, but I love big cubes, so I want to do every single big cube. So you're making this hard for me.
I understand, but here's the reason I picked 3 as a limit. I took an average competition, I looked at several one-day competitions in the past around here.
Yeah.
And I looked at essentially how many events did people do.
And of course I did like every single one.
Right, and there's some people who do every single event. There's some people that come and only do 1 or 2. But I wanted to see, in the first rounds, how many event signups were there in total. So basically, like, if you signed up for 5 events, I signed up for 6, and someone else signed up for 2, you'd add up all of those numbers to see what the total number of, like, events... Yeah, not just the average, just the sum.
Yeah, okay. The sum of it, okay.
And the sum typically for a one-day competition came out to be in the low 300s.
Okay.
So my thought was, well, rather than have me pick the events for everybody, have everybody just pick their own events in a way that, we don't go above low 300s number of events for people. And with there being multi-blind, 4-blind, 5-blind, like really long events, those, like not all events are weighted equally. Some are naturally going to take longer than others to get through. So for a 100-person competition, if everybody picks 3 events, that's 300 event signups.
That's actually, that makes a lot of sense now that you explained it. But it's really annoying to pick those 3 events because
it's tough.
All 2 through 7.
So, do you think this will be something we see more in the future? Because is this the first competition that's ever done this?
Yes, as far as I'm aware.
This is okay. I want to, complete.
I feel privileged.
Yeah, this is really cool because like there was a lot of time I was waiting just for 5x5 to happen, so I could get that sub 2. Because at Northwest Championships, I decided to fail. So I had to wait like a half a year, to get to a competition that had it, and then I finally got it. But now you can like do it every competition if you really wanted to. That's
right. Do you see this like being something that would eventually happen every competition?
I don't think so. Just because one of the biggest drawbacks of this kind of competition is it really dilutes the competitor pool. Where like some events there might only be like 3 or 4 people that sign up, and then they get a podium just because they picked an unpopular event.
Yeah, it picks like clock and gets instant first place with DNF average.
Right, and it's so a lot of weird things can happen in a competition like this. So I am skeptical to say that this is the way of the future. I just think that for generally you have to run like a 2 or even 3-day competition to fit in every single event.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that this is just a nice way because 2-day competitions are draining. A lot of, competitors' parents don't want to stay for a 2-day competition.
My dad can't even stay for an hour before having to go to Costco.
Right. And so, it's tough to run a 2-day event. Like my weekend's gone. I can't get anything done that weekend. It's tough running 2-day competitions all the time, but you also want to give people a chance to compete in their favorite events. So I think doing one of these competitions, once to twice a year or so is good because it gives people a chance, like, if they missed the competition that had 5x5 or the competition that had one-handed.
Yeah.
It gives them a chance to be like, oh, cool, I get to still get that in if I couldn't go to that other event. It's just a nice way to make sure that there's good event coverage in an area without having to have way too many competitions or to
really
do
long ones.
Yes, or do 2-day competitions all the time.
Do you?
It's
No, they're targeting this. All right, Carlin,
Come on.
go. Carlin, go.
So this is like legit my final question, and that is, how does the WCA, like, how do you pick which events are going to be at which competition to make it fair, and like, why do they sometimes get switched out? Because last competition you were going to have OH and we switched it for Pyraminx. Like, how does all that happen?
I'm not sure what you mean by switching it for Pyraminx.
Well, like, you had 2x2 through 7x7 with OH, and then when I checked next time, it was 2x2 through 7x7 with Pyraminx, and OH was not there.
For Eugene?
Yeah, Eugene's.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. I don't remember the reasoning for that, but generally, so organizers come to me with like a proposed event list, and I have a giant spreadsheet that tracks like all the events at Northwest competitions. And what might have happened, I'm guessing what might have caused that switch is like it was proposed to me as 2 through 7 with one hand. I might have said like, hey, we just did one hand at this other competition. We haven't done Pyraminx around here in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably what happened. I can't remember exactly why that switch would have happened.
Maybe because one hand is a bad event.
Yeah.
Hey.
Now you heard that, Carlin.
But yeah, so it really depends on region. There's a lot of regions where it's a lot of newer competitors, and they generally just kind of want to do the basic 2 through 5, one hand, blind, Pyrrhus cube kind of event list. But people in other regions, they want to make sure with a lot of experienced competitors, like, let's make sure that we rotate in and out all of these events to make sure that people get a chance to do them.
Yeah.
It's kind of a balancing act there.
Yeah, I want to go back to the whole entire pick your 3 event thing. Is it like, do you think you'll ever like choose pick your 5 or pick your 4 instead of just 3? Because 3's a pretty small number for like all day.
It is a pretty small number. I think we'll have to see how Oregon State goes. Because I intentionally picked, like, I debated for a long time between 3 and 4. 5 is kind of a stretch.
Yeah.
But 4 is
5 blind or just 5x5?
No, picking 5.
Kyle, you're lost.
Over 2. So I think that 5 is a stretch, but 3 or 4 is probably the sweet spot of what you'd want to do. And I decided, because this is the first time we're doing an event like this, that I'm just going to go with 3 because I don't want to, totally kill us for doing this kind of competition. If it stays under enrolled, because like currently right now I think there's only like 20 some people signed up. I'm keeping an eye on that, and there might be a chance that like if we only have like 40 to 50 people sign up by like mid-May, that I'll email everybody out and say, hey, everybody, you can add a 4th event.
I'm kind of liking this idea because there's actually a chance that I could podium in like 7x7 now.
I don't think right now,
because of all the fast people don't do it, then I actually have a chance, and I like that idea.
That's a good plan.
And I think currently, like, even the 3x3 psych sheet, like, most people who are good at 3x3, like, don't really want to do it because they get to do it at every comp.
Yeah, the only reason I'm doing it at every comp now is because I need that sub 10. I'll stop every comp once I get that sub 10. I promise. All right? You'll stop seeing my name.
There's, like, I think, let's see, one person doing 7, one person doing 6, one person doing 5, one person doing feet.
I love
one person doing
this is
clock.
Automatically my favorite competition here.
So there is a chance that if I did feet, that I could podium even if I just solve it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why I like this.
And and this is why this competition actually caused a lot of controversy, because it was seen as a way for competitors to like farm podium results or whatever.
So what? I mean,
that's kind of my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the website, and there's already a new competition in May. I like this whole entire every month thing.
Yeah.
I remember when it was like twice a year in 2016, or two
Yeah,
or
it
three
wasn't
times a year.
it wasn't quite as often back then, but it's a lot easier when I'm not the only one organizing everything,
Well, this
and I
is
can
3, 4 feet. Ew, it has square one. Ugh, I'm
Yay!
sorry.
I love square
I'm
one.
sorry for disrespecting people who do square one, but it's a disgrace to me because it's.
Do you like it, Kit?
Yeah, it's all right.
He does it.
Okay.
I nearly messed up Kit's time during square one because I didn't read the thing right because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, I mean, square one's not a bad event.
Yes, it is.
It's not a great event either.
There's
I think
problems
that
with it.
CSP is really cool. Like, if I had a lot of time, I think that learning the CSP actually sounds like a really cool thing to learn. But if like you're just doing like pure like cube shape and then alg spam, it's a really terrible event just because the 50-50 chance of parity is really rough.
Yeah, I hate that.
I do like that it's like a fun event and kind of different and out there for a WCA event.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Without CSP, it's kind of a bad event. But with CSP, I think it's an all right event.
But
It's
you
just
get a
that
50-50 parity with 4x4.
You do, yeah. I mean, that's why.
No, I think it's a 1 in 4 for OLL, and then 1 in. It's not 50-50, I don't think.
No, it's definitely 50-50.
I swear.
It's both of them added up. It's not just like one or the other.
Yeah. If they're added up, there you go. Well, I was talking about the individual parity by themselves, like PLL and OLL. Okay, that makes more sense. I was about to start a big rant there.
Yeah, I mean each of them is 50-50, but like all two-way combinations are 25%.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing about square one though is it's a short puzzle. Like, the world records are in the single digits, and the parity alg itself takes like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Which that's the biggest problem with square one is how fast the rest of the solve is, and then there's this 50% chance that you add like 4 seconds to your solve.
And that's annoying because like you're on a really good solve. Like let's say you're like Tommy Cazalia, right? And you're doing your square one, you get everything done in like 5 seconds, then you get parity and it's not like a 6. It's like
right, but
that's just
the thing is, most of the people at the top use CSP anyways, which eliminates parity. So
yeah, but there are those people that use that whatever it was called. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it.
Getting lucky is not a crime, you guys.
It is.
CSP works regardless of what actual method you use. It's just a way of solving cube shape in a way that doesn't get parity. So it's a method neutral technique. You can as long as you're doing a method that's cube shape first, CSP is just a way to do cube shape and such that you never get parity.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, we might divide this podcast up into like a part 1, part 2 thing since it's going long.
But we've been in a call for an hour and a half. That's not enough.
Okay, is this like way too long?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I was expecting Kit to have to go like make a banana smoothie or something like that because he's been doing this for too long.
So U.S. Nationals, how they did the Guanlong Challenge, I love that idea. Is that something we're going to see in smaller competitions?
Let's make it an event, guys.
So the Guanlong Challenge is something that we have done at Nationals thanks to the Cubicle. That was one of their ideas that they had first in 2015. So they provide all of the puzzles, and they actually run the whole thing. It's something that we are very hands-off about doing. So it's just kind of a fun thing that they started doing. And one of the things that will, I don't know, it would be fun to do it at a local comp, but we'd probably have to like add an additional entry fee to those who do it, just because we'd have to buy the puzzles. So I think it's not something out of the question to do at a local comp. I think that just the thing about local comps is they're typically short on time anyways. And generally, like if you ask the typical competitor, would you rather have another official event or would you rather do a silly like Guanlong challenge? That
not silly.
Some people would be down for doing the silly Guanlong challenge, but I think that most people would be interested in just having more official events.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, Yeah, that's I think the gist of it.
And you can't fill your puzzle with sand either.
Yeah,
that one guy that
actually happened.
That. He went outside and grabbed dirt.
It was Mitch, and I thought he was just being funny, but then I'm like, oh wait, he's actually planning this out, because then the person who gets that cube will lose. But they ended up switching it out or something, but that was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it was intentional sabotage because he had to have the cube in the first place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like a winning strategy. It was just a sabotage strategy for anyone who beat him, which was kind of funny.
Well, in the second time they did it, the announcer, you could hear, he's like, and do not put unnecessary materials in your cube.
Yeah.
Puts potato chips in it. Well,
yes, I mean, there's a lot of silly things that can happen in that sort of thing if people are taking it, less than seriously, like Mitch did in 2015. But yeah, it's a fun idea. I think though that it's tough to do unless you have the money to buy, a cube for every competitor. So yeah, it's a fun thing to do. I think it would be difficult to implement in a local competition where time is strict already, and you'd have to organize extra fee collections so that you could hold
pay for
the
actual
event.
Things.
Right. What would be kind of cool, and maybe I could talk to the Cubicle about this, is maybe because one of the big things that'd be hard to do is collect the money additionally, but maybe there'd be a way that there could be some sort of way to register for the event, say if the competition's sponsored by the Cubicle, that maybe the Cubicle could have an order form for the whatever cube they're using for that challenge.
Yeah.
And say if you want to register for this unofficial event, go to the Cubicle's website and buy your cube directly there by this date, and then they'll ship out the box of all the cubes to the organizer.
Oh,
that's actually a good idea. That makes a lot.
Yeah, and that kind of takes out the logistics of getting the cubes for everybody.
Yeah, but couldn't you also choose which cube you want on the Cubicle? You'd buy a Valk or something.
Yeah, I think it would be a specific order form for that competition.
Yeah, when you click the link, it automatically adds it to your cart and puts you into checkout. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And it has its own shipping deal. You wouldn't pay for shipping because it would just go with the organizer box. I think it would probably be a separate order form that wouldn't be something you'd add to your cart normally.
Would you put a speed limit on it so people can only be this fast to do it, or it's as long as they pay the $5 or whatever, they'd be able to do it?
I think if it's a local event, I think that you would, and you're doing an open order form in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd have to have it be I think there's no way around it. You'd have to just let anyone who wants to compete. But you could potentially do a qualification round or something.
You need to be sub 5 on 3x3.
Yeah, maybe the way you could do it is have everybody do the challenge and then just do a quick best of one round for everybody to get the top 16 or top 32 or whatever you want to do for the bracket.
Yeah.
But that's
I think it'd be better if you arranged everyone by average, so it's not someone who averages 10 seconds goes against someone who averages 50 seconds and just blows them out of the water. It's just to make it a little more competitive.
Right.
Also,
well, at the same time, though, the way you want to have, though, a bracket set up so that the best cubers are meeting in the final rounds, and the way you do that is by separating the skill as much as possible in the first round.
Yep.
Something that could happen is if this got if this actually was a thing, while 7x7 or blindfold, a smaller thing is being held, it could be happening in a separate room.
Yeah, because it's quite loud.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, at least.
I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah, but it's hard to have stuff go simultaneous though sometimes, especially because if people. I mean, you have to require people, if you're doing that sort of thing, you can't do the official event that's happening at that time.
There's a lot of problems. It's just hard to get
Yeah, I think if you're going to do it, you kind of just have to set aside the time to do it. So, I don't know. I think it's a fun idea, though. I kind of want to chat Phil, send him an email or something, say hey, we thought of this idea. Let's
do
you think
this.
This could work? You think this could work?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know.
Phil sends out 150 Guan longs. Yeah, let's go. Well, I have some bad news. It is currently 3:32 on my clock.
I need to go.
And and my sister has a class at 4, and I need to send in a essay.
Mr. WCA Delegate Kit Clement, thank you so much for joining us. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Felix.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Felix.
Oh, great. I got fast again. Awesome.
Yes, you got fast. Sub 10 immediately.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, contact us at theinteractivecubers@gmail.com. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Maybe it's his end.
Yeah, he disconnected, it looks like.
Aw, what a rage quitter, dude. Carlin. Okay. Oh man, this makes my life a lot harder. I wanted it. Well, I guess I'm just gonna spam Carlin here with A's.
Yeah. No worries.
There. Yes, we have. Maybe it's his end. Maybe that's why he left, or maybe his Wi-Fi died again. Well, I guess it's time to cube now. See if I can get an average of 50 in by the time he gets back. I'm gonna text him.
Sounds good.
Carlin. Oh, I love G-perms. The G-perm took me 3 seconds. What is this?
That's not unnormal for me, I feel.
I can't believe I can't get a sub 10 in competition, like, ever. I can get them really easily at home. Like, every 2 to 3 solves, I get a sub 10 at home. Goes to competition and then gets a billion 10-second solves.
Yeah.
Hey, are you guys there?
Oh my gosh, Carlin, you scared me, dude.
Hello?
Yeah, Carlin, can you hear me? Carlin!
Bad internet. Ain't it the light?
Are you guys there?